Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to this hybrid meeting of the Planning Committee. This planning meeting is being broadcast live over the internet and will be available to view online now and in the future. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings. I have had no request for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Those attending in the chamber, please be aware that we are all on camera and you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking. And please remember to speak clearly into your microphones. Committee members participating remotely, can you please refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you want to speak. Please remember to keep your microphone muted when you are not talking. May I remind members that as per statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by the members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask that you all please use your cameras for the duration of the meeting? Thank you. Right, we move on to the agenda. Agenda item 1, attendance and apologies. Rachel, do we have any apologies?
I'm not aware of any, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Niall, could you please ask members in alphabetical order to state whether they have any interest to declare?
Of course, Chair. If we can start with Councillor Ashley.
Yes, as far as I know, they're personal. Number 1 was local councillor TCBC. Number 2 was community councillor Cumbran. And number 3, I am a governor of Maindy School. I'm appointed by council. I can't remember, to be quite frank. I'd have to go back and find out whether I'm there as a Cumbran Community Councillor or LEA. Apologies about that. It's been a while since I've looked into that one. I am an LEA governor I really can't remember. I have to go back and ask the clerk.
Okay, Stuart.
As far as I know, I'm okay sitting in on this meeting. I was
being
informed that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Niall.
Okay, and Councillor Evans.
Yeah, I got declared interest because South Wales Fire and Rescue was involved with the process. They're told about every planning or whatever issues. Okay.
Okay. Councillor Gordon.
Nothing from me, thank you.
Councillor Hawler.
Nothing from me either.
Councillor Gaynor James.
Nothing from me.
Councillor John James.
Nothing from me.
Councillor Janet Jones.
Nothing from me, Neil.
Councillor Mark Jones.
None that I'm aware.
Yourself, Chair.
Nothing to declare, thank you.
And Councillor Slade.
I've got no interest to declare.
Okay.
Right, thank you, Niall. We'll go on to item 3, which is minutes of the Planning Committee from the 10th of January 2024. Members, could you possibly state whether you have anything to raise in relation to the minutes? If not, I will take them as approved. I can't see any hands up, so we'll take them as approved. Thank you. On to item 4, which is planning application 23/P/0754/FUL, and it's for full planning permission for the proposed redevelopment of Maindy Primary School. Site to comprise new primary school, associated facilities and associated works, and it's at Maindy Junior and Infant School, Wayfield Crescent, Northville, Cumbran. Right, can I ask Justin Jones, Principal Planner, to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, committee.
Good morning.
Just share the presentation now, Chair.
Thank you.
Great. So as the Chair has said, this is a full planning permission that seeks to redevelop the current Maindy Primary School into a new modern school. So you can see, Chair, Committee, the application site is highlighted in red on the screen, and it comprises the infant school, the primary school, and associated playing fields, and the access off Wayfield Crescent. If we look at the wider context of the area, Chair, on the western boundary we've got Cumbrawn Drive, to the south we've got Maindy Way, and then to the north and to the east we have residential properties that serve the school. If we look at the site on the ground, so this is looking from Wayfield Way, looking north up the site, so you can see the playing fields, you can see the trees and landscaping, the concrete acoustic barriers, and as you can see the site is visible from the public realm and is lower. This is looking from the south site north to south, so you can see the residential properties. Along the western boundary, there's the car park, and there you can see is the infant school. So this picture is taken from a lane that serves a number of garages. So the committee will be aware that there's been previous planning permissions on this site for the redevelopment of the schools, and I thought it'd be interesting for members to see what has been approved in the past and what is being consented or sought to be consented today. So the one on the right, which is highlighted with my cursor, is the one that has been consented. And the main issue members will see straight away is that the access is off Wayfield Way, but there is still an access for maintenance of the fields to the top. This scheme isn't going ahead, Chair, primarily due to cost and time prohibitions on the scheme, which is why we've got the application before us today, which is the one on the left. Again, it's still fulfilling the same functions as previously considered, but the principal access is off the existing Wayfield Crescent. And then we have drop-off points within the site, and we have the teardrop loop. In terms of the school and facilities, they're all design built in '99, which is the same as previously before. You'll see the parking is to the north of the site, and there is a flying start as well. So if we look at what's been proposed in a 3D visualization, so you've got the flying start, you've got the number of parking spaces that will serve both the flying start and the main school. So the school is split, as we'll see in the diagrams later, to the infants on the ground floor and the junior school on the upper floor. We've got the muggers and we've got the grass playing fields. So if we look at the elevation of the primary school and the materials that are proposed, we've got a split bonnet pitch roof, which you can see here, Chair. On the southern elevations, because again, the school is being built to net zero, as all modern schools are to be designed to now. We've got photovoltaics, we've got the buff and the grey bricks on the elevations here. So this is north, so this is the main entrance, and the way they've defined it, the main entrance, is by having the grey contrasting with the buff. So this is the main hall, this is the main entrance. To the south, we've got all buff brick. Again, this is where the hall is. This is where all the plant and equipment will be. And again, if you look at the materials that have been approved for the Louvre, for the buff bricks, it's all complementary. And then to add some visual stimulation, we've got the teak cladding. So this is just the layout internally of the school. Again, as I've said, Chair, it's built to national standards, design built in 99. So on the ground floor, we have the nursery and the infant school, the main hall that serves the primary and the nursery. And on the upper floors, we've got the junior school. So there's the canteen, and there's the hall. So again, this is showing why the design is the split level of the monopitch roof. It's important in terms of net zero that the circulation, the heat, it is reduced and that it can ventilate itself. So what you have is obviously on hot days, the hot air rises, it circulates, it cools down, and it comes around in itself, services the school. So it doesn't have to have as much external heating sources, which is really important why the design is where it is and why we've got the orientation of the building as it is as well. So again, if we look at the Flying Start, which is committee will be aware is to the north of the site, again, it's a single-storey building, monopitch roof, and again, the materials of the cladding, the teal, is to complement that of the school. So the two buildings connect the site together so it reads as one unifying force. Again, here's the internal layout. And one of the points you'll see, Chair Committee, is that there are lots of larger rooms, so it allows for adaptability of the school. And obviously there's the play areas as well outside. Again, one of the points that's been considered as part of this application is the access and the usability and how certain users will access the building, which is an important function. So what you've got here is obviously the drop-off and the turning areas for the children to be picked up and dropped off. This is the access for the reception and nursery, who are at the front of the building. This is for the infants, which are towards the back. For those that are of special needs or LNRs, their access is down the side of the building. But again, what you'll see, Chair and Committee, is that the design internally has been designed so that the flows of moving people in and out can be done in as efficient and effective manner as possible. My cursor decided to go to sleep then. In terms of emergency services, it's been designed and tracked that the emergency fire attendants will come down to this point here. And the reason why it's there is that's where the hydrant is, and that has been consulted with the fire service, who've been part of the design process, and they're comfortable and content that that is the appropriate location for them to be able to access the site in the event of emergency. And the other point, Chair, is that if there are other emergency vehicles that need to come, they can also access at the front, so it allows dual use. And also for deliveries, they are also to be done down here. That's all been tracked and considered by the Highways Authority, who are content that that will work. If we look at the boundary treatment, as you can see on this screen, there are various boundary treatments as you'd expect for a school, and that's highlighted here, and that's all considered acceptable. We've got 2 metre high mailed fence around the outside, which is standard, but it allows views in and out, so it's not seen as a fortress-like design. Again, one of the key points of this application, Chair Committee, is the landscaping and how that has been integrated. So if we look along the boundary here, these trees, the existing populace are coming out, and we'll see that on another screen for the temporary access for the construction vehicles, which the committee had considered before in the previous applications and agreed to that in principle. But in terms of the landscaping that's going back, what we have along the boundary along here is really important, and the trees that have been chosen are limes and English oaks, and they've been chosen as they allow over time, good spread of shading and carbon capture, especially when it's along Cumbrawn Drive. The landscaping has been done in consultation with the trees officer, who raises no objection and supports the landscaping that's going forward. I think it's also important that under the previous application, Chair, that committee raised concerns about this tree, which is a Category B tree. It's been retained under this scheme, whilst it was potentially to be lost under the other. We've also got another oak here. We've got some limes. Overall, there are within the site, excluding the 9 trees here, there are 35 different varieties of trees that are going on this site that are native to the UK. And along with that, we've got understory of woodlands and wild grass areas that will also form part of the SUDS features. So ecologically, what we have here, Chair, under this scheme is an enhanced ecological state from the current one, where we have a lot of mown grass and a lot of populous trees, which in ecological terms don't create a great variety of habitat. As I just said, Chair, Committee, as part of the scheme, there is a temporary construction access that removes a number of trees, and they've been highlighted within the committee report. You will also note, Chair, Committee, that those trees are low-grade, Category Cs, so their long-term viability is reduced, and our planning policies and our SPGs do allow for the loss of Category C trees, but critically, it's the replacements which are important. And as I've already stated, Chair, we have oaks and limes that are going in replacement for these trees here, which will add to climate change and biodiversity. One of the other key points and difference between what has been consented in the past and being sought through this one is that the existing school will remain active during the construction of the new school. And obviously, as part of that, it's important that the separation and safety of the children and the workers has been considered. And that is what this KEMP that has been submitted has looked at. So we have a solid 2-metre hoarding that separates the live school from the site. We've got the compound, which is located away from the residential properties here. The access and egress for the construction vehicles is off Cumbrawn Drive, which has already been considered acceptable under previous applications. There will be a banksman on the site to ensure that pedestrians that walk along Cumbrawn Drive or cyclists are also protected going forward. The storage compound is here. Again, Chair, it's away from residential properties. So the submission has been considered and looks at that the construction of the school and the operations of the school can work harmoniously together. One of the issues that you would see in the committee report is the flooding, and obviously one of the reasons why we can't issue a decision if committee are recommending agree to the recommendation to approve is that we have to wait for Welsh Government to see if they want to call it in for their to make the decision. So the blue area is the area that's designated as part of the site that floods currently, and the yellow is that floods occasionally, but you can build within that. So national policy states that within the flood zone that's unprotected, which is the blue area, highly vulnerable development, which is the school, shouldn't be supported. But in this instance, what you'll already note, Chair, is that the infant school is substantially within the flood zone. The Flying Start, which would sit approximately here, and the car park, which sits approximately there, is of a smaller footprint than the school, and there would be fewer pupils in there compared to the existing situation. Also, and critically, and this is an important point, Chair, Committee, is that the flood consequence assessment that has been submitted has demonstrated that given works that have been done further up the river and the marginal change in levels, that the whole site will not flood, and critically, as required under TAN 15, which is the national guidance on flooding, would not displace that flooding to any third-party area. So in terms of policy, we're comfortable that the proposal, when built, will ensure that the site is flood-free, and therefore there would be no undue risk to the school. But again, as you see, the recommendation is that we have to wait for Welsh Government to see if they want to call it in or not, but that's the reason around it. The call-in circular is that we have to give Welsh Government that time to make that decision. So if we look in terms of the impact upon neighbours, as a committee will see that the new school will sit behind the existing school, and that is currently playing fields. So if we look at these properties at Plas Lwyswain, you can see there's already heavily vegetation on that site that screens them from the site, and a number of them have outbuildings. So in terms of the visual impact and being overbearing, the school is approximately 15 metres away from the rear gardens and 21 metres away from the actual buildings themselves. So there is a slight level of change in land, and we'll look at that in a minute, Chair and Committee. But as you can see, the existing context does provide some relief for those residents. And the same is true if we look at where the Flying Start is going. Again, you can see a number of them have outbuildings, and again, the level changing slightly, but again, that relationship of the offset of 7 metres and a single-storey building is considered to be acceptable. So, as I said, Chair, this shows the relationship of the primary school and the levels. So this is the rear gardens of the properties. So this is the boundary. On top of that, they've got 1.8 metre high fences. And then we've got that distance of 15 metres. What this diagram shows, Chair Committee, is that under design standards, which have been set nationally by the British Research Establishment, is that where you'd have a 25-degree, anything that's below that 25-degree, there'll be no loss of ambient light going into habitable rooms. And that's what this drawing demonstrates, that the siting and design will ensure, even at its apex, at that top end, there'll be no loss of light to those residential properties. So in summary, having regard to all material matters considered, the application is recommended for approval. That's the end of the presentation. Happy to take any questions now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Justin. Right, so we've got one hand up, Councillor Stephen Evans. Niall, is there anyone in the chamber with their hands up?
Not this time, Chair.
Right, thank you. Right, we'll start with Councillor Evans then.
Thank you, Chair. I got 3 if you would indulge me. Because the school has been turned 180 degrees, is the solar panels sufficient for the school's needs? That's the first bit. Now, on the second bit, with the metal cladding, is it viable? What's the thing with the fire risk? And also, what's the life of the metal? Because that school is an open environment. And then the third point, where you're doing all the road works, what's put in place for the safe routes to school, for the children to walk to school? If you could answer them, that'd be great, thank you.
Right, Justin, can you answer those, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Evans. In terms of the solar panel, the building has been orientated so that it can get maximum solar gain, and as you can see, it goes over the whole of that roof plane. So the calculations that have been undertaken by education would demonstrate that that is sufficient for the school. And again, there are solar panels on the Flying Start, and again, they've been orientated so that they can get maximum benefit going forward. In terms of the materials, again, as part of the net zero process that these schools are designed through now, the materials are carbon neutral. Again, as part of the design bulletin 99, it takes into account fire safety. And as I said, the fire service have been engaged through the process in terms of access and those materials. But again, the more detail of that material comes through the building regulation process. But as I understand it, Councillor, Education have spoken to the fire service and to building control, and those materials are considered acceptable in terms of the fire spread. And obviously the construction of them as well in terms of the fire walls and blankets and the spread of that has all been part of the design going forward. And I think the final point was safe route to schools, wasn't it? Yeah. As you'll see, as part of the active travel plans that was submitted as part of the school, and I think it's important, Chair Committee, to recognise that active travel plans are an ongoing process. So it's not a moment in time. They do evolve, and that's what the conditions seek to do. So as part of that, there are routes for pedestrians and cyclists that will come through, primarily through the eastern side of the site, but that has been considered going forward. But again, that is why that construction site and the camp that's been submitted is critical to ensure that the routes for children, certainly from the south, where there's access off Wayfield Way, are still open going forward when the site is being built. Hopefully that answers the points, Councillor.
No, thank you for that response. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Stuart Ashley, Councillor Stuart Ashley next.
I wasn't going to, but I will currently ask the question. On the come round drive, talking about access to school and active travel routes. Currently, you can cycle or walk down Cumbrahan Drive, and there is, if you come off, there is actually a back gate. There was a question I think local members raised about whether that back gate would it still exist. Obviously, you've got the at the moment you will have the contractors traffic going in there. That was a concern, I know, about whether it remained. The active travel routes, there is provision in this school for places like Pontyddryn and that. So there's up the new estates in upper Pontyddryn, south of the Bastable, to possibly whether there are routes coming into the school along the drive and other places, obviously that also going from Wayfield Crescent. One of the concerns also was about access and over access, because we've taken out the route onto site from the other way, because that would have been preferred option, but as obviously you've taken it out and changed the whole development because of affordability problems, which I think we were disappointed by. So that's one aspect. The parking and is still going to be access through the upper part of Northville. What provision has the authority got, along with the developers, about making sure this doesn't have the same problems that we've got now with cars coming in and out, and what measures do you think will be in place for that? That's one set on parking and road measures, because at the moment I'm seeing what you're offering there, but it is something that maybe needs a bit more looking at. The flood scheme we also well know about, because we've got the brand scheme that is what you alluded to there. It looks amazing. It's certainly handled the latest floods there, but obviously there's the event stuff, and anybody that's been in that area before the flood scheme was done would know the water went down the drive and then came over the current school playing field, and then ended up in the walk there. Now I'm convinced that this will work reasonably well, but councillors get held to, these if you get extreme events, what are the engineering? What is the engineering for extreme events? Which is, I know we can't be serious on this, but you know, having seen that flood in action, and we've done the works, which cost an awful amount of money. How much more? And I know you're going to get a call in by the Welsh Government on this issue, but does beg the question, I think. Environmental issues. I think I was the one that probably raised the issues about the trees. That looks brilliant. It looks like the idea of putting natives in. The poplar trees are iconic, but they don't offer much shade. And the question on this site, Steve asked the questions about whether we get enough for things like solar panels. It's a very hot school at the moment, even the present school. If you sat in that school for any amount of time in the summer, you realise just how hot it is, that school. So I have no problems with the school site having the sun, because it's direct south facing, and current building is hot in the summer and cold in the winter. And the way you've designed it, it looks brilliant. I have a question about what a Bryce solid oil is, because you mentioned that several times in the application. I don't know. But obviously that's an architectural term. I know what a seam mono pitch roof is, because you've described that beautifully. And then what was the other? So I've taken trees off and environment. I've got notes here of things that you've mentioned in the plan that I didn't know, and then the back gate. So if you would like to answer those few things, I think it does, despite the things that have been taken out and changed in it, it does look an excellent plan.
Right, thank you, Stuart. Justin, can you answer those questions, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I apologise, Councillor Astry. There were a number of points there. I've written some down and I may have forgotten some, so I'm sure.
If you want me to reiterate, I mean, there are concerns, and I can come back to them.
It's okay, Stuart. Yeah. Stuart, there's no need to go over it again. I'm sure you can pick up what Justin needs to at the end.
I was saying that.
I think in terms of parking, I think the first point we need to recognise is that the parking provision on site is policy compliant. I think in terms of active travel in Cwmbran Drive, this is the point that I was alluding to, Councillor, in terms of the active travel routes. We have a document that highlights possible routes at the moment, including the one off Cwmbran Drive. There will be the need for more detailed work to come forward on that, which is why we got the condition about the active travel. So it is an iterative process, it's an evolving process, and as the school opens, it has to respond intelligently to those demands and pushes and pulls. So education are also working with our highways colleagues to look at how we can get more active travel going forward. I think it's really important, Chair Committee, that we have that step change in access in schools, so that the children take the healthy options rather than the car, so that we meet our objectives under the Future and Wellbeings Act of creating a healthier society. You'll note, committee already note from when they last went there on the site visit back in 2020, that there are parking restrictions around the site already. There's design for around the bell that currently exists for parking, including disabled parking. This scheme also has within it the 6 provision spaces for picking up and drop off. And again, that's located at the front of the school. And again, as I said in my presentation, Chair, what we're looking to do, and that will be managed by the staff to make sure that the throughput is done as quick as possible, so we can get more people in and out as possible. But as you rightly said, or alluded to, Councillor, any schools, there is always that demand around pick-up and drop-off point. And this school will evolve that going forward. But one thing is clear, is that we can't design schools around the use of the car, and that's what this is seeking to do. And don't get me wrong, I'm a parent myself, and I know exactly what it's like. But I do try and walk my children as much as possible to school, whilst they might not like it. But that's the mentality that we have to do as parents going forward for that. And as you've rightly said, Councillor, this school is being designed to accommodate development that's self-surpassable. So again, it's making sure that as it's a new school, as there's a new ethos, that we set from the very beginning the need for active travel. And that is what we're working through with education and with highways to make sure that we can, as the school develops, have that intelligent information to make those changes to evolve. But there are those routes, as you've mentioned, on Cumbrian Drive that we are seeking to make sure and exploit going forward further. In terms of the flood consequence assessment, I think it's important, Chair, that those flood consequence assessments look at worst case scenarios. So they look at climate change at what increase of 1%. It looks at a 1 in 100 event, a 1 in 1,000 event, and critically, it's also looked at if any of the culverts get blocked, if any of the maintenance works isn't done, and it's looked at that really worst case scenario, and it has concluded that the site in all those situations will not flood. So we're confident that the school would be secured from flooding. So that's the model that's been done, and it's very detailed, and it's gone into the worst case scenarios, and that's concluded that the school will not flood. So we're confident that that has been met, and the requirements of policy, flood risk has been considered and acceptable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
If I can come back, I'll start with the flooding issue. I must admit I'm hopeful, and you could never say this with floods and climate change because we know it's an escalating problem. But I do hear what was said, and I hope that is something we're not come to. I hope that that's the situation because certainly an awful lot of money has been spent on it, and it does look vastly improved. As far as the cars and parking, I do agree totally with you. It's an educated process, and it is a neighbourhood school. So we hope that people get the message that they don't that it's a walk to school, and where possible that we get as least number. But you can make this truism that all the schools in Cumbrian and probably throughout the country have got the same problem about escalating numbers of people in cars. It's just a universal problem that we've all got, but it is what it is, and we need to have that conversation with our constituents and residents about that. But we can only make so much provision. The officer has made a very valid point. I think we're all parents and grandparents, and necessary. We can only make so much provision. The problem is that Pont Newid Station Road, etc. There's other routes to school in this very site, and local members are extremely aware of that because you've got other schools where people are walking in different directions. You've got Pont Newid Village, and you're never going to win on this one. So I think the officers have done what they can with it, and they even if we'd gone for the other thing where it was coming in the other side, we'd have had a problem, and the town centre. So thank you very much for that, sir. I approve of what you're doing there. And as far as the trees is concerned, I think that's a much more improved situation because that shade on that field was not good. Looking forward to seeing what's planted. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Stuart. Niall, there's a hand up from the chamber. Could you tell me who it is, please?
Yeah, Chair, that's Councillor Jai Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Justin, I'm not going to go on as much as Stuart. All I want to know is on the parking, it says that to limit the adverse impact on neighbourhoods, a management plan could be secured by suitably worded condition. Is that something that we are hoping to put forward? Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Janet. Justin, can you answer, please?
I'll give a short answer, yes. But I think, as I've said and alluded to, is that this is an ongoing process, and there's got to be that dialogue with the users. So that is why we have that plan going forward, is that we don't want to be fixed in stone, and it's got to evolve and adapt going forward. So, you know, if there are pressures going forward, then we can adapt the plan to that, and along with our colleagues from the highways authorities, we can put in appropriate measures going forward. And I think it's important that as the school evolves, and obviously when it's open, first of all, it won't be at full capacity, but when it does, it will then need to be intelligent in how we go forward on moving up. Hope that answers the question.
Well, thanks a lot. It's all about communication, isn't it? Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Alan Slade.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think I've really got a question, more of a wish to put my concerns on record, really, about the parking and the traffic. I mean, it's all very well to say, you know, active travel is the answer, but looking at the report, the transport report with the alongside the planning application, it says that 93% of the staff use cars to come back and forth school. With the increase in staff, this is obviously going to be a bigger school, there will be insufficient parking spaces for the staff, never mind visitors. I'd also point out that the school currently isn't managing the situation with people dropping their kids off, evidenced by the fact that the school gates are closed during the morning and afternoon periods. The report says there's going to be an extra 100 plus two-way journeys to the school in morning and afternoon, but we're not proposing to do anything different around the neighbouring streets. I mean, I just want to put it on record. This is going to be a nightmare. I mean, I've experienced something similar in Llantarnam, where insufficient provision was placed for the kids being dropped off and picked up. I would also point out that most of the increase in the children going to that school is going to come from South Sebast, which is perhaps, you know, it's going to be further away from the school than the current catchment area. These people are not going to walk. I'll tell you that for nothing. They will not walk. You're talking about a 4 mile round trip, 2 miles in the morning, 2 miles in the afternoon. They are not going to walk their kids that far. And the journey home is all uphill. So it's not going to happen. That's all really I've got to say. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Alan. Do you want to comment on that, Justin, or not?
No, I've got nothing to add to that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, then. Right, I can't see any other hands up. So can I ask a member to move a proposal?
I'll propose it.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Steve. Right, it's been proposed and seconded. So, Niall, could you ask members in alphabetical order to state where they are for, against, or are abstaining? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chair. So we'll start with Councillor Ashley.
For.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Gordon.
For.
Councillor Horler.
For.
Councillor Gaynor James.
For.
Councillor John James.
For.
Councillor Janet Jones.
For.
Councillor Mark Jones.
Yeah, go for.
Chair.
For.
Councillor Slade.
Against.
Okay, so it's 1 against, Chair.
Right. So that's 9 for and 1 against. So this planning application has been approved. Right. That's the last one on the agenda, or only one on the agenda too. So I'll thank everyone for your attendance and your contributions, and I'll close the meeting.